desires to be a wife should have that song, Cater to You by Destiny's Child, on repeat, repeat, repeat. Cater to You. That's the mindset you need to have for your husband, for your man that you have deemed will be your husband someday. With that being said, welcome everyone to House of the Matchmaker. Today we're discussing, ladies, can you be with a successful man who's superior to you? So before I actually get into the conversation, I want to say something real quick. And I know that some people are probably going to think that I'm switching up, but I'm not. I'm going back to my original message from when I first got on this app, right? Being a matchmaker for high earning men. My clients are all in the six figures and up. Most of my clients are actually millionaires. And so my purpose of coming on this app was to have conversations with women about what those men desire in a wife, right? Especially within the Black community. I noticed that women struggled with high earning, successful men because those men, the way that they think, their thought process is not the same as men who earn less. But in listening to other conversations, I tried to be more inclusive in my message and trying to help women who were dealing with men who earn significantly less. Well, in engaging in those conversations, I found myself being disrespected. I found my expertise disrespected. It was just too difficult. It was just too much. I'm starting to realize exactly what the women are saying and seeing in their counterparts. And so, with that being said, I'm going back to what I originally started off, which was helping women learn the skills necessary to attract and keep men in the top 20%, with the goal being marriage. If my message does not resonate with you, if that does not resonate with you, or if you are not a man in the top 20%, if you are a woman who is not looking for a man in the top 20%, my message going forward will not resonate with you. If you choose to unfollow me, that's fine. If you choose not to come into my spaces anymore, that is okay. But just know that all of my conversations will from now be revolving around the men in the top 20% and the women who actually want those men. And I know women will have a hard time putting a number on a man, but when I hear them talking about the type of man that they desire, that man is already available and he is situated in the top 20%. If he is not there yet, he is a man who has already devised a plan on how to get there. So my goal is to help the women who want to get married, who want to be with successful men. This is not about being a gold digger. This is not about being a kept woman. This is not about having a leisure life, being a leisure wife. This is about women who actually have the heart of wifehood. They want to be married. They want to see their families in a more a position where there's not going to be a lot of strife and struggle, and they are focused on their children getting the best out of life, and the men who also want that. Because I'm telling you, ladies, if that's what you want, there are men out here who have that same ideal, and you don't have to fight and argue with them on getting that. If you want to stay at home and focus on taking care of the children, the home, and your husband, there are men out here who will not fight you on that. All of these 50-50 conversations, 80-20 conversations, what women need to bring to the table, all of these conversations is unnecessary with those men. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have to bring anything valuable to the dynamic, because he is going to vet you on it. But the conversations that you're typically hearing, it's not going to happen. The way that he's going to vet you, the way that he's going to deal with you It's going to be out of care and consideration for you as a woman and for the possibility that you might become his wife and the mother of his children someday. Now, that's not to say that all high earners are looking for marriage. And that's why you need to know the difference. You need to have distinction for those who want marriage and those who don't. For the ones who want marriage, that's why I exist. That's why it will happen. We can hear your music. Thank you. Um,
My
for the ones
apologies.
who want marriage, oh, that's okay. For the ones who want marriage, that's why these conversations will exist. But you need to know and understand that when you want a lot, if you want a lot from a man, be prepared to bring a lot. You get the type of relationship you've earned. And that takes us back to the title. Ladies, can you be with a successful man who's superior to you? And I know that word, that man being superior to you, is probably triggering a lot of women. But you need to understand the dynamics and balance of power in a relationship. Equality does not work. If you're looking for a relationship that's going to be equal, that's going to be built on equality, my message is not for you. Because there's going to be a more superior person in the dynamic. And for the type of men that you all say that you want, the superior mate, the superior person will be the man. He is going to be the one bringing the more resources. He is going to actually do the most work outside of the home to make sure that the family is financially sound and intact. He is going to work hard. He is going to work hard. He is going to climb higher. He is going to do more. He is going to bring more. That puts him in a position of elevation. So the question is, can you be with a successful man who's superior to you? If you cannot, if that bothers you, that drives you nuts, I'm sorry that does. I'm sorry that if you feel as if I am betraying women when I say that, but that is the honest truth. When it comes to high earning men in the top 20%, because again, I'm only talking, when I say successful, I am only talking about men in the top 20%. When
What
it
does the
comes,
top 20 start?
the top 20 starts at about $137,000, I believe.
Am I safe?
And that can be applied globally, not with that picture, but
Yikes.
you are safe. I do not want I and like, I don't mind people engaging in a conversation, they're in a chat, but really, if you're not in the top 20%, if you're not a woman trying to date a man to marry in the top 20%, your conversations, your opinions really hold no value to me. Because if you're not in the top 20%, you're not trying to date in the top 20%, what's the point of you even engaging in the conversation? Don't mind it, but I want people to think before they start jumping in a chat or trying to jump on stage. It's not necessarily an echo chamber, but um I want people to understand that this is about teaching. This is about helping women and teaching women to understand what it takes to be with those men. Because being with those men is not like being with average earners or men who don't make a lot of money. And I'm also wanting you to understand the difference between a man who wants to marry at the time that you do and a man who doesn't. Because they all don't want marriage. But just because he has money, you might want to deal with him and give him the time of day. And that's just going to cause you to spin your wheels and end up wasting your time. So, welcome to the stage, Chemical and Erica, you know what's wrong with that picture.
Erica, you back to see me? What's poppin'? Yeah. Listen, LeTisha, hold on.
Feeling like I got a stalker. I don't know. But hi
Sweetheart, I've
though,
only seen you two
LeTisha
times. Come
and
on now.
everybody. Hello.
Hi, Erica.
But LeTisha, I want to ask you this. You said that I'm not safe because of my picture. So what's more important? These women being taken care of, having a provider, being having provision and things like that, or how attractive they think that somebody is. Which one is more important?
I think the women being married, marriage is the goal, so looks don't matter. But hey, I was going, I was going with the teasing because I know that's not your real picture. I don't care if you're gonna get mad at me right now, but that's not you. If that
That
was
is
really
me.
you, I would not have said that because I'm not cruel in that manner. I don't know whose picture. There you go. Thank you. Now that's you.
No.
That's you. So, welcome, Rob. Welcome, Erica. I do agree. That's one thing that I need women to understand is that if marriage is the goal, you find the man who wants to marry, right? You're going to attract if you are a really kind woman, you have all these great qualities, you're going to attract all types of men to you. You should be filtering through all of them and only dealing with the ones who want marriage at the same time that you want it. Not the ones who are saying I don't want it right now, not the ones who are saying maybe sometime in the future. No, they want it within the year or two. Like they can see themselves that if things are going right, he has no problem buying your ring and putting it on your finger. Those are the men you want to marry. And then once you meet that man, the man with that mindset, then you start to filter through to see if you are compatible and suitable. The way that a lot of women go about choosing men and what I've seen them going about choosing men is completely wrong. Um, the if marriage is going to be first, looks are going to be secondary. Not saying that you have to get with somebody who's going to be Quasimodo and you got to put a bag over his head, but hey, if all the other men aren't trying to offer you marriage, but that's the one who is, I mean, that says a lot. That means you have a lot of work to do on yourself. You need to do something to attract a more more pleasing looking candidate. You get what you've earned. And there are some things that are going to make it more difficult for some women over other women. But if you want a high earning, successful man to marry you and take care of you, and he's going to take on the responsibility of the family, you have to really get in your mind that these men, because you're asking for a lot, they're going to be asking for a lot as well. And let's get into what do successful men desire? Successful men desire, and I said this in the other room, successful men desire women with beauty, brains, body. The three B's is what we call it in the matchmaking industry, the romantic love industry. Beauty is not necessarily you have to be at 8, 9, and 10, but beauty comes in the way that you take care of yourself. How do you wear your hair? How do you dress? The way that you keep your skin, right? Good skincare, good dental hygiene, um, the way you're making sure your hair is washed and shiny, looking good, your clothes are fitting nicely, and you're dressing in more a style that signifies that you're a wife and not a woman out here for the streets, right? Secondly, would be brains. Successful men like intelligent women. Does that mean that they only want women with degrees? No. They will take a woman without a degree as long as she shows she has a level of intelligence. They do not like dumb bimbos out here. They do not like very hot women that do not have anything going upstairs, unless he's just trying to have a fun time and she's a fun girl. But when it comes to raising his children, He's not likely to go with someone who doesn't signify they have the intelligence and the competence to raise his children, because a woman, a wife, is the first educator of the children. So again, you don't have to have a degree, but you need to have a level of competence and intelligence. Third would be body. You need to make sure you're in shape. Ladies, I know you're not going to like to hear this, but the more successful that man is, the more slender he desires the woman to be. At least have a smaller waistline. Some men do like the curvy look. Some men don't really care about how rounded your hips are and how big your butt is, but they want your body to look nice, to be in shape. So a lot of women will have to lose a lot of weight, get a nice diet plan, a nice meal plan, not to mention what you eat. If you have an unhealthy, crazy diet regimen, you're eating fast food all the time, you're eating out all the time, you're not cooking healthy meals, you're cooking starched foods, processed foods, he's not likely to want to enter into a long-term relationship with you. Because again, these men are thinking long term. If he's marriage minded, he's vetting you for to be his wife and to be the mother of his children. So what you cook and what you put in your body is the same thing that you're going to give your children. So if you're eating out all the time, you're eating fast food, even if you're eating at restaurants all the time, I don't care if they're 5-star restaurants, you're eating out all of the time, he's going to think that that's how you're going to deal with the children. And these men want healthy, smart children. Um, so also, oh my gosh. All right. Not to mention, yeah, cooking. And then it's not just not eating out, but it's also what you cook. Make sure you're cooking healthy meals to signify that you care about your health. Because if you care about your health, then that means you care about his health. You'll care about your children's health, right? Um, Another thing is it's harder for women who already have children um to date men for marriage at that level. That's not to say that it's impossible, but when you already have children, it's going to make it a little bit harder. That's why I'm saying. So when you have
A
children,
lot harder.
a lot harder.
How
You are
fine?
correct.
LeTisha,
How
explain
fine
this
do she
title
got
to
to be
me.
to offset the fact she got kids by a man that's significantly less than the man she chasing?
That's when you are going to have to be in that 8, 9, 10 range. If you have children, you're going to have to be in that 8, 9, 10 range.
If they
Or
got children, it's a wrap.
if you have children out of wedlock, not if you've had children from a previous marriage. It for men do look at that, whether you've been married or not, and if you've the caliber of man you've been married to, right? Um, so when you have children, it just makes it a lot harder, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. You just have to be a little more strategic. So these are the things that they're looking for, right? This is what they're looking for in a wife. Um, and not to mention how you engage, how you deal with them. They're also looking for women who are quite understandable of their lives and their lifestyle, women who are pleasant, women who are agreeable. Women who already had the mindset that I'm going to get on your program and not try to interject my own program, right? Especially with children. This is one of the reasons why they're not wanting women with children from other men, because when you have children from other men, it is now it's difficult for him to implement his programming onto your children that isn't his. But if you have the mindset of one band, one sound, even though these children have another father, you are the head of the household. I understand the role you play in my children's lives. He might consider it, but it's very hard for women to sweep that aside and let another man's programming come into play with children that she has with someone else that she's been raising by herself or co-parenting with another man, right? It causes a whole host of problems. So now you know what they want. This is just a microcosm of what they want. I'm not even giving you the whole shebang of a strategy session or a lesson of what these men desire. That's just the small part. Like that's just the basics. That is the that's just that's like the base, right? I haven't given you the entire um 5011 kids to my Bria, that's hilarious. Bria said, "Can you give us advice for single women who have no children and these men are trying to add 5011 kids to my zeros?" Here's the thing, Bria. Negotiate you get what you negotiate for. If he wants 4 children and you feel you can only give him 2, you tell him I can only give you 2 and see where he lands on that. These men tend to be very marriage minded men are not going to box you in. Again, marriage minded men are not going to box you in. They really don't have this my way or the highway when it comes to things like children because they have an understanding that you're the one who's going to have to birth them and you're the one who's going to have to deal with them a lot majority of the time. So you negotiate. They're flexible, they're open. So if you only, but don't come in with this mindset of, I don't want to, because he's going to ask you why. You have to ask yourself, why don't you have to answer that why? Why don't you want to give me as many children as I want? You come in with the answer of, well, I don't want to mess up my body. That's going to take away from time from doing what I want to do. You're out of there. You are out of there because now you're talking about you, and not what's best for the family and basically the head of household, right? There's a reason why he wants to have all these children. You need to ask him, why do you want to have all them? Why do you want to have, if he wants to have 12 children? I have a client who wants to have as many kids as God would allow. And I said, so you're trying to be like the Duggars? And he said, no, I'm trying to be bigger than the Duggars, right? Like I'm trying to have a family bigger than the Duggars. If anybody knows who the Duggars are, they have 21 kids. They almost had 22, 23, but she lost a few pregnancies. Um, and I asked him why. For him, his why was his religious beliefs. So if I ask a woman, well, why wouldn't you want to have a lot of kids? If he asks you why you don't want to have a lot of kids, you need to have an answer, a logical, sound reasoning as to why you don't want to have kids, right? Um, So it's just a matter of negotiating what you desire. Negotiating is your best tactic. And if you can negotiate, that man will appreciate that. Because once he sees, oh, you're not trying to just be in your feelings, you're not trying to get me caught up on just your feelings. You actually know how to communicate. You're not going to run if there's a problem. You're willing to work it out. You're willing to negotiate. You're willing to compromise. So, Um, so I'm telling you what they want, but I know what you all came in for. You came in for the title. Ladies, can you be with a successful man who's superior to you? So I know y'all gonna get y'all panties in a ranker. So I want y'all to put in the chat. Can a 1 if you can, a 2 if you can't. A 1 if you can be in with a successful man who is superior to you, a 2 if you can't. And the 2 means you don't believe any man is superior to you. Well, a lot of ones. Okay. All right, fellas, you see this? A lot of ones. All right. Uh, I feel you, Liz. You have zero interest in leading a man. I feel you. All right. Here's the thing, ladies. Here's the hard truth. These men in the top 20% are superior to you. And this is why. Because a lot of you are going to come to the table with nothing. You don't have as much money as them. You're not as ambitious as them. You're not as driven as them. You probably don't have as many assets as them, if any at all. Right? You're being kind. You're being a woman. You're being gentle, nurturing. Your ability to have kids does not put you in a place of superiority over those men. They already come with that superiority built in. And if you don't understand that, you don't accept that, you don't receive that, he's either going to play with you or he's going to discard you immediately, depending on what he's looking for. If he's marriage minded and he's only looking for women who want to get married, he's going to discard you. If he's kind of iffy and he's like, you could be a placeholder until I actually find my real wife, he'll play with you. So, the purpose of my rooms is to help women get red pilled about men in the top 20%. And the reason why I'm talking about men in the top 20% is because I know that's who you all want. You all can't get one, but that's who you all want. And it is high competition for such men. So you have a choice. You either compete for that man, or you get satisfied with men who make less and deal with what comes with that, or you remain single. That's the choices. The one thing about the Matrix is they made it seem as if you had only two choices, but no, there's a third option, and that third option is to stay single. Buy a cat, a dog, a lizard, a snake, whatever animal you choose, a bunny rabbit. But that is the third choice. There is no in between. There, I guess, well, one of those will be in between, but there is no mixing or no gray lines. That is why a lot of people are single, because they're to trying to make something that doesn't exist.
LeTisha, what did you say the options were again? Because I'm trying to figure out, like, I do believe in superior men, right? But I don't know if my, like, personality type, like, I'm a Southern girl, I'm a simple girl, I don't care for all of, like, I need, spa day every day. Like, I'm just a simple Southern girl, really. And I don't know if it meshes well with like a top 20% type of superior man, and especially with my own perspectives. And I'm trying to figure out if that meshes well, because I haven't dated, of course, a top 20% man. My child's father, I was with for a majority of my 20s. We got together, I was 19, he was 32. So when I was 20, we were in a relationship, and he was 33. He's 13 years older. He didn't start off with this income he's at now, but he does touch six figures now. And of course, I've dated another guy. He was definitely like 80K a year or something like that. He was a fireman. But I just recently decided, okay, I'm back in the dating field, and maybe I should go for a rich guy. I thought to dress up and go to a nice little hotel bar or something like that, just to put myself out there, because I haven't dated that caliber of man. But I'm like, honestly, I don't know if my southern self, my comfortable, not comfortable, but simple. I'm mostly simple, mostly more traditional value type of girl. If I would mesh well with a top 20% man. Off the top of my head, I would say no, because I just don't know the character of these type of men, really. So I'm trying to see what your opinion is.
Yes, they love wholesome women. They love women with traditional values. They love women. Well, there's different types, right? You have the type who wants the ambitious wife, the go-getter wife. You have the type who's just looking for a housewife. You have the type that's looking for, as what Mamiya called, an executive wife, right? It's not about your personality being, modest and having Southern values. Actually, they love that because the Southern hospitality. If you don't mind me asking, what state are you in?
I'm in Texas, but I'm from Georgia.
Okay, Whew, Texas and Georgia. Oh, are you in Houston?
Yes,
Oh, that's what
I am. I've
I,
been in
okay.
Texas for 7, 8 years now.
Okay, so here's the thing. Men in the top 20% who are looking for a marriage, you have the qualities that they desire. The only thing is, Erica, so how old are you?
Sorry, I'm driving. 29. I'll be 30 in December.
29. Okay. And how old is your child?
She's 6.
Okay. And um mm, why don't the so is the child's father, you said he's in the top 20%.
No,
Is
I
he
wouldn't. Not according to the value you said. You said 137K. He's at like 103. Well, he
okay?
touched 103 in ish. 102,
Is he
103.
is he gonna get there though? Is he gonna get higher?
Oh, uh, maybe in the long run, yeah. He works for UPS. He's been there for about 15 years now or so. So I think at his peak, he'll probably be like a regional manager or something like that. So I would say so. I'm not sure their income though.
Okay, so is he married?
No,
So why not get back with him?
absolutely not. No, because his character, and that's why I say like he was the one that I spent the most time with in my 20s. Moved in, had a child. Afterwards he presented a ring, but his character, he's a butthole, and he did not treat me well.
Okay,
I was
let's
young.
let's let's unpack. He's a butthole. What do you mean by he's a
Mhm.
butthole?
So in several different ways. Um, the number one on the list, of course, he would get physical. And number two on the list, there were plenty of times where, yes, he did not start off at six figures, but he was higher than someone in my 20s with that salary. I think, I don't know, I'd just say 80. Let's say 80K. I'm 20 years old. Most 20 years old, well, most 20-year-olds aren't at 80K. And it was times where literally like he was very cheap, and not like I'm gonna take care of everybody, but I'm just cheap doing it. It was like to where he would buy stuff for himself and then try to hide it and order it, and then we didn't go out on dates, it was just little stuff
Wait,
about
wait.
him.
So hold on. So how did you end up moving in with him and having a baby with him? Did you not know all of this
Yeah.
before?
No, so we started in Georgia. We met in Georgia. He's from New Orleans. I'm from Georgia. We met in Georgia. um we were at we were in my place first, and before his lease was ending when we met. So after it ended, we were just starting to date, and I was just like, eventually I gave him a key, and he stayed for a few months, and then he told me he had a job offer in Texas. So at that time, before he moved to Texas and we were distant for a few months, he would bring me flowers, and this was just randomly. He would bring me flowers. He's very charming, and he would cook. I would come home on days when I would work doubles. He had cooked, cleaned up, and he was just charming. He was older. He had his stuff together, quote unquote. Of course, his lease was ending, so it looks like, oh, you got this 30-year-old staying with you, but it was just like timing, I guess, for me. So I didn't really mind because I knew, like, okay, I asked him, how long you been on your job? At that time, it was like 9 years, going on 10. So I'm like, okay, you're stable. I'll do it, I guess. And I really liked him at the time. But then once we moved to Texas, his colors came out. But of course, in Texas, I'm not from here. He's not from here. We don't have family here. So that's when them colors came out. And it was like, okay, now you starting to be a little demanding and just keep
Okay, hold on.
controlling.
Hold on. Wait, hold on. Now, what do you mean by demanding?
So I was working first at FedEx, and then I transferred to Texas. Wasn't making much money, and before he told me, I saw my habits, and I'm always kind of checking myself. So I would pick up on the dishes, all of his dishes when he had first got the apartment, and I'm like, let me do this man's dishes. They are literally everywhere, all over the counter. I would just do stuff. But then it got to a point where it was like I started at the post office, and he's like, when I started working, I'll never forget, he was like, oh, you think you're gonna be making all that money and keeping it for yourself? You gonna pay half the rent. It's like $500 right down the middle. And then on top of me working, he wanted his food cooked when he came home. So I would go to work. I think I would go in at like 2 in the morning, get off at like 11, 12. He got home at like 3 or 4. Um, and he wanted his food cooked. He did not touch his plate while we were together. He didn't touch his plate. I always cooked, I always served. He would never really do it for me, and all of the stuff that he wanted from me, he would never do for me. Like I would go to get simple stuff, cash back. I need to go get cash back. I would get a bag of chips. He see me with a bag of chips when I come home, and he's like, "Oh, you ain't get nothing from me." So I'm like, okay. It got to a point where every time I would go to the store, I would get his favorite snacks. He didn't ask me. He told me at some point. I always did it, but he never reciprocated. And it was just like, at this point, you're not doing for me. You're not reciprocating for me. I really ask you for anything, and you getting physical. So it was just like I turned into like this little housemaid, and I was young too. And it's just like I feel like he treated me like that because I was isolated from my family, and because I didn't know. I wouldn't say I didn't know better, but I thought that it would change. Like I hadn't experienced that, so I wouldn't have been able to react as quickly as I can now. And he
So,
knew that. He knew that I didn't know. It's you know.
okay, so let me ask you, was there ever a conversation of you not working since he wanted you to do all these domestic duties and he didn't want to do them?
When I got pregnant, yes. When I got pregnant, I was pregnant 6 months when I moved to Texas. So I moved in October, and by March I was pregnant. So once I got pregnant, um, he gave me the option. Yeah, he's like, I think you should stay home, but it's up to you. And I was talking to my parents, I remember, and my dad was just like, yeah, your mom didn't work. So I stayed home for a year and a half with her. And then he got like greedy with finances. So I eventually went back to work. Greedy to the point where his daughter, at some point, she was a little troubled at the time, and she moved in with us for a couple of months. When I tell you I was taking her to school um, with my daughter, and there was a time where my phone bill was off. I didn't have gas in my car. I was literally on E. He knew this, and he left, went to work. I had 2 children, 2 girls, one to get to school, one baby, and he wasn't trying to take care of the bills. When I told him that I couldn't transfer my job, because we moved first to Dallas, then from Dallas to Houston. When I told him my job wouldn't transfer to Houston, he was like, well, I'll be giving you an allowance and you don't have to worry about it. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. I guess, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I resigned from my job at the post office at that time, and it was for that year. And when I resigned, we moved to Houston, and it was trash. It was I never saw an allowance. I would ask him for his card to get clothes for my baby, and he would say, "Oh yeah, we'll talk about it."
Okay,
But
so let me ask you, did he come from a single mother household?
so his parents were never married. I want to say yes. His mom raised him up until he was like 12. He has mom issues. His mom passed when he
Okay,
was
all right.
21,
Yeah. So
and daddy issues.
okay, so this. Okay,
Yeah, it was
so
bad.
you here's the thing, Erica. You had, I know he's making money now, but you had a baby with a broke-minded man who didn't know
Right.
how to be a man.
And still doesn't.
Who was looking who was trying to figure out his manhood. I don't have the
Right.
energy to talk about such men. Um, here's the problem. Your baby daddy is going to be a problem. Successful men in the top 20% are going to hear that story and they're going to run for the hills. And this is why. It showed poor judgment on your end. And no, I know you say you were young, but it shows poor judgment. And unfortunately, for men, they don't it's like F your feelings. Not that they're lacking empathy or they don't care. It's just for them, it's like, I didn't get to where I am by being foolish, being stupid. And I can't have a woman who may not be capable of making sound, who does not have sound judgment, to lead, to nurture and teach my children, right? So it's like, um it's like you are the one who is going to be responsible for the children, and then this child has another father, another parent, who has very low value character, who's going to be influenced by his low value character. So what is she going to bring onto our children, right? um the only way that it'll work for you is if you would get a much older man, much older. He's going to have to be like 50 plus. He
Nah,
doesn't
I
want any
wouldn't
more
have to.
kids. Hold on, he's done having kids, he doesn't want to have any kids. Or someone in your age range, or a little older, maybe 11 years older than you, who doesn't want to have kids. Do you want to have more kids?
I do.
Okay, so that's
And
going
I
to be
don't mind
hard.
someone with kids. I honestly would prefer like a guy with a daughter who can be like a playmate for my daughter. Like I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, but men who are staunchly in the top 20%, staunchly in the top 20%, meaning their social class, their socioeconomic class and status has nothing but top 20% earners around them. Their lifestyle is of that top 20%. Even if he has kids, it's still going to be harder for you. If you had kids, if you were married and had children by another top 20% earner, he would consider you. You would have consideration. And this is why women should be mindful who they have children by, because when you start looking for a, if that situation doesn't work out, he's a bum, he's lazy, he's abusive, and all this other stuff, that situation doesn't look out, you've set the standard for whom you are going to mate with. Cornell has, and I'm not, this is not my personal opinion, right? Cornell has done a study. They're still relevant and applies today. It was done in 2005, but that study is still relevant, where it says unwed mothers have an unlikely chance of matching with a successful man. If she happens to get married, it's going to be with a lesser caliber man. She's not likely to get that man. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's harder and you have to be strategic. And you're saying you don't want to go for the men who would likely give you that shot. And I'm telling you, it's going to be someone 55 plus, or a man who has determined he does not want to have kids, meaning he's probably got a vasectomy because he's like, I don't want to have kids, even if he doesn't have any. But for the most part, he's always going to want to have that thought in his mind that I could possibly want kids, and they're not going to want a woman with kids. So your age group is not going to be where you're going to find him. What you're going to find is men like your ex. You're going to find men who they deem that you've already been through it. So they're not going to want to give you any more than that, because you're already coming to the table with a deficit, with a man of lesser caliber's children. They're going to play around with you. They're going to have fun with you. They're going to make it seem like they're going to commit to you,
Oh wow.
but it's not going to get to that point. So if you want a man who's in the top 20% in your situation, you're going to have to get past this ick factor of him being much older than you. There's a lot of 55 plus year old men that look good.
But I'm not
Like,
saying that I do though. I'm just inquiring because I have not dated a man of that caliber, and I'm in the dating field now. So I'm just asking questions because I honestly, again, to me, I don't think it matters like what they want. I personally care about the type of character these men have, because if they're not the type of people that I want in my life and to have children with to begin with, then we just not a match, and that's that. And I'm okay with that. So that's
okay,
why I'm just asking. I think I asked before, like what type of men they are, because my ex is the closest that I've gotten to someone, at least of that salary. But as far as the character, if they also are closely related, which they can be, because there's a lot of men who feel like they have money and they're assholes. And then there's also the men who, for example, they know how to lead. They're leaders and they're not just, you know, egotistical.
Yeah, but okay. So here's the thing. They Having an ego is not a bad thing, right? We all have one. That's what causes us to be driven and ambitious. Our ego allows us to succeed, to want to do better and be better, engage in competition. So ego is not the problem. It's the type of ego that he is operating. Well, not type of ego he's operating in, but it's if he's operating in vulnerable narcissism. Like if he has vulnerable, and I really don't want to get into that. But to answer your
Hmm.
question, you're gonna have bad men across the board at every financial level, but I'm not talking about bad men. I'm talking about men who want wives, men who have an understanding of the dynamic between man and woman in a marriage. Men who want marriage, they want a wife, they want family, and they want that family to turn around and serve the community, right? It's bigger than them. It's bigger than them, and it's bigger than you. It's about the two of you coming together to serve a purpose through your marriage. So you can come across a lot of high earning men and they can be a-holes. The reason why they're going to treat you that way is because they feel that you only earned so much from them. So, um, but high earning men are very generous. They're very generous, but the thing about it is they're very bold and audacious in how they speak. They have very high requirements. They have very high standards. And I think a lot of women can't deal with that. And that's why I'm having this conversation about can you be with a successful man who's superior to you, because that's what they think, that's what they believe. That's the position that they're going to put
Right.
themselves in. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that some women can't deal with that. So if you can't deal with that, then you already know that you're not suitable for a man in the top 20%.
Right, because from what you're saying,
Uh,
these aren't simple men. They're not simple southern type men. I mean, maybe in some of their lifestyles, but as far as their personality, like
there's a
when I
mentality.
say a southern belle, like yeah, like the
Yeah, but
mentality is a little
Erica, I'm getting a sense that you like a man who is going to be more um nurturing to your
family
feelings.
oriented.
No, I'm talking about personality types. I think you want a man who's going to be more nurturing of your feelings.
I wouldn't disagree. That's somewhat true, yes.
Okay. He doesn't have time to nurture your feelings. You have to nurture your own feelings. Like,
I think.
Yeah,
Do, do you think that's unfair though? I think even when we're talking because not all women may want a man that has that level of money, and a lot of times
wait,
with
hold on.
having that.
Hold on.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
that's what we're talking about. We're talking about men in the top 20%. I don't care about men
like
who go
alpha
out and
men.
make less than that. No, it's not even about
Alpha men,
alpha.
pretty much.
It's not really about alpha and beta. It's really about money. Men in the top 20%, they are in the top 20% of individual income earners. If they are not, I don't care to talk about them. They have no place in the conversation. If a woman doesn't want that type of man, that is fine. That is her right. That is her choice. Then she has no place in the conversation because I
Okay.
can't.
So you saying basically you just want to key in on those guys and I guess the women that desire to have relationships with those types of guys.
Correct.
Okay, I think that one thing you did state is that those are rare positions, right? And I didn't know this until just now. One of my brothers just posted, but he said that in America there are 7 million more women than there are men. So I think when we're looking at now standards, right? Of course, this is what people have, and if those are, we're going to say the scarce high earners, right? Obviously they feel like they and there's a mentality that comes with that. They feel like they can have whatever it is that they want. So even to now consider having the settled mind, you understand? Because I have, I'm around those types of people. You know what I'm saying? Not all of the time, but I do have those that have plenty of money. And there is a level of attitude, there's a level of mentality that comes with that. Even when we said when we're speaking of a quote unquote status quo, you understand, or a certain perception that goes with the money that you're making. You understand? This is why it's somewhat of a common theme when you're talking about black men that are high earners. They now go out and select and pick white women or some type of foreign woman. So a lot of times black women wouldn't even be in, their
Wait,
discussion.
what? No, because black
Yep.
men,
Uh-huh.
successful black men, black men in the top 20%, they will marry black women at 80%. So their majority of them are married to black women. So I don't want that
I can't, I
narrative
can't,
out
I can't, I
there.
can't, I can't agree because even when you have the whole theme of
Okay, but
in
hold
this,
on.
uh, uh,
Hold on. Okay, what are you, I don't understand what you're talking about right
what we're just
now.
talking about the
Because
people
we're
that make
talking
that level of
about,
money is what I'm saying, and like
right.
they now are going different places. They're all around the world, so I can't
Oh,
just say you
okay.
understand.
Okay,
So now
I get you now.
they
Okay.
have more of an option to pick, and they have the money to help them navigate that option a lot more. So whatever it is that they're wanting, they pretty much can have. You understand? By them now being the top 20% earners. You understand? This is unless you have someone that's very disciplined. You understand? Someone that is still very modest, even with all of the status, even with the Ferraris and the mansions, all this stuff, they're still very modest. That's something that's rarely seen. You understand? And I think that would kind of bring about the settled man, the settled mind. But what I've found is that a lot of times those guys don't mind being single. They don't mind being because they feel like they can't be tied down. So that is just how I weigh in on the discussion of those types of guys.
Can I just, hi LeTisha, can I just make a point on just one thing? I think there's a misconception around the lifestyle of a top 20% man. Um, when people assume, just like you said, that even with all the Ferraris and everything else, a top 20% man in the United States, if he's in that, just say he's just in that 20% category, he's not buying Ferraris. He can't afford them because a Ferrari would be, even on finance, you're looking at $3,000 to $4,000 a month, and he's not affording that. People really don't understand how little money uh, it takes to get into that top 20% bracket. So you get into that top 20% bracket, you're living a pretty normal life. It's just a little bit, more comfortable um, than middle class. So when you're talking about Ferraris and traveling around the world, you're trying to look for the top 5% of men. Top 20% is just living a comfortable life and having the luxury to stay at home and not go to work if you're lucky.
No, I have to disagree on that. Top 20 percentile, that's pretty high up there, even going from 20% on up.
The brother, the kind of money it takes to own a $300,000 car that's not a daily driver is a lot of money, bro. So you consider that as well as owning a house. If you own a Ferrari, you likely own two houses, both of which are probably well above $1 million. I mean, if you just start doing the math, $1 million probably is about $5,500 mortgage, tax tag, and title. $2 million home. I mean, this is the cheap way, bro. I mean, it could get really it can get really silly, but like British said, top 20% is comfortable. Top 20% is I can go out to eat nice places. I can have some nice luxury designer items in my closet, that kind of thing. It isn't quite a whole just a wholesale lifestyle change as one might
And
think.
just because you can buy
Top
something doesn't
20%.
mean you can maintain it. Maintenance is a
Yeah,
big cost that has to be included as well.
Yes, top 20. I just looked it up. Top 20% income in the United States is $130,000 a year pre-tax. That is 10,000 something, 10,005, $10,800 a month. A Ferrari costing you 3 grand a month. You cannot afford a Ferrari if you're in the top. If you've just made the 20th percentile. So people have these very very weird and strange illusions about what the top 20% means. Top 20% is just comfortable. That's basically the threshold. What IQ is talking about is top 5% men, and I, most of the women with stories. And while I empathize highly with Erica's story and what she's been through, a woman with a story like that is going to find it extremely difficult, especially if she's got quote unquote demands of her own to get into that bracket.
And then on top of that,
And I think
you're
I
not
think
even
one thing that you
including.
did say.
Hold on, real quick. You're not even including taxes. So that also plays a very big, you know what I'm saying? Like that also plays a big part. So when you're looking at the top 20%, compared to those who are making, who does have the Lamborghinis, who does have the Ferraris and these, these supercars and these super houses, that's to them is very little money. For the rest of us or y'all, like who are not making that, it's going to be big, but not for like a luxurious lifestyle at 130,000 a year. No.
So what I can
Nah,
say,
but I will say that
real
it
quick. So
basically it
I
is.
actually own luxury cars. Like I have an Infinity and I have a Porsche. Some of the Porsches and Ferraris, the brakes, like I heard Liz speak about maintenance. Some of these cars, the brakes are going to cost you about $30,000 for the carbons
You
for
get
the
those
carbon brake.
ceramic brakes.
You say what?
You get those ceramic brakes. Like it's
Yeah, 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 yeah.
kind
So for the ceramic brakes, the like some of these cars, the brakes are gonna cost you more than some people make in a year. It's like 28, 25, 20, 28, $30,000, for like the Ferrari F8 Tributo, for even the 488. So when you're talking about these in many instances, you're talking about a half a million, $700,000 car. That's more than most people. Somebody bring up the percentile of what people in the United States, like what amount of people in the United States make enough money to afford a 500 or 700,000 $1 million car. It's not many. Very few black men, if you're looking for black men, are going to be able to afford that. And two major things I want to say is, to even get to that level, the woman is going to have to be okay with the man working longer hours, because there are three main college majors that are going to matriculate people into that income category, or that caliber of income. And the first one is going to be economics, the second one is going to be MBA, and the third one is going to be engineering. So a lot of our women are going to look at these majors in college and say, "Oh, he lame, he's this, he's that, he ain't got it going on." But wait until he turns 30, wait until he's been in that industry for about 12, 15 years. He's making more than a doctor, and even like a lot of surgeons in many instances. So you're going to have to be okay with him working long hours. And secondly, a lot of these positions are going to be high in the company. Um, and what that means is these individuals are going to interface with executives, people, like senior managers, senior directors, also people in the C-suite. So if you cannot entertain, if you cannot set a table, and if you do not dress properly, you're going to be overlooked. I'm not so sure about being played with. You might just be skipped altogether, because if you don't fit the bill, um, and not so much visually, but it's more of like a socio economic class thing. It's like, where did you go to school? What do you do? And if your vernacular is off, he's gonna know that you're not gonna be the right company. Because I've heard many people in Silicon Valley and on Wall Street say, we're gonna be at we're going to lose as a department or as a company or as a division if we promote him. Because if we promote him to incompetence, look at his wife, he can't even control his house. So if he can't control his house, how can he control like how can he oversee like several, like how can he supervise um several engineers? How if he can't supervise his, if he can't manage his house, if he can't rule his house, you know, how can we promote him to manager? How can he manage a team? How can he manage a division? How can he manage a company? I mean, you got this wife, she comes in tight clothes, overtly sexual, popping gum, hair all over the place. I'm not saying she's ugly, but if she's, you know, got a lot of attitude, and if she's loud, how is that gonna play out at a company function for BlackRock or Google or Apple or OpenAI or Tesla, um, or JP Morgan, right? Like you know, the list keeps going on. You're not talking so much about doctors at this point, because what the income levels a lot of these women are asking for, they're beyond doctors. And frankly, these guys are very rare. So I would just take that into perspective. And I've talked to, I've seen some. I don't want to be too long winded, but I will say this, and I'll end. Um, I I I read a message from a sister in the chat, and she said it seems like a lot of work. Well, okay, you want a guy that has a six pack, makes six figures, he's 6 feet tall, 6 inches, all of that, a lot of that requires work, because it's a lot of work to get your body fat percentage, your body fat percentage down to, you know, 8-12%, when all the food has pseudo estrogens in it. A lot of the diets that people eat in corporate America are terrible. So you have that into perspective, and then to get the muscle mass where women are attracted, that's money. So I mean, it's time and effort. So men have to build themselves up, health wise, fitness wise, and then when you talk about making six figures, seven figures, and stuff like that, being able to afford Lexuses, houses, Lamborghinis, and stuff like that, you have to build yourself up. So a woman, if she expects a man who's built to that level, she should be built. She should. She should. I would say, um, not turn away or not shy away from building her character and her like her mentation to that level, because there's things that coincide with a woman's character, um, that will attract men at that level. And I'll land my plane there.